All right. I'm once again Grimbopolis Michael, and he's once again Byron Person.
I was gonna have something to do with Phoenix Person, and now I've forgotten what it is. God damn it!
Are you arisen from your death? You are now part machine, part man.
Well, I did have some corn dogs earlier, so maybe.
Part corn dog, then. All right.
I am corn dog person.
This is good. We do have antimatter weapons that hopefully can kill Vince McMahon, though.
That would be ideal.
So, as you may have grasped from that, we didn't really enjoy Extreme Rules that much.
No.
We enjoyed the main event. Good.
Yes.
But the pay-per-view as a whole, I'm going to have to go with the thumbs down. But you know what? Yeah. Let's get into the specifics. I'm going to touch on like kind of one broad point that we're going to point out a lot. That is that the gimmicks of a lot of these matches did not make sense and actually actively subtracted from the event at hand.
Yes.
Almost all of them. And that is not good. So we started off with Ambrose versus Miz. Would you like to take this one? Because you usually have some vile and venom for this kind of thing.
It's not so much vile and it's not so much venom. It's just that Miz isn't good at these matches. I've yet to see a match that he's good in. Like if we could find a specific type and it could play to his strengths as a bitchy little heel, then just like he will refuse to wrestle any other match than the one that he's specifically good at. That would be kind of cool. But he's just there was no coherence to this match at all. Like every time the Miz would get the upper hand, I was given the distinct impression that this was a temporary thing. Like it was going to be for a few minutes, and then, you know, obviously Ambrose was going to get the upper hand again. And so you just wait. Like I basically, whenever he was on offense, I checked out because he's bad at offense. So you just wait until he's not on offense anymore, and then you kind of halfway pay attention. But Ambrose didn't help out either. I mean, he wasn't doing anything that I cared about. There was no real storytelling involved. It was just occasionally, and by occasionally, I mean, how long did this match go? Like 15 minutes? I'm going to bring up the Wikipedia here.
I think this was 20 minutes, actually.
Well, hold on. Let me bring up the Wikipedia page.
According to Wikipedia, 20 minutes on the nose.
Really? So in 20 minutes, there was 2 or 3 spots where it was potentially possible for Ambrose to get disqualified. And the whole point of the match was to get him disqualified so that he'd lose the title. That was the whole point. I don't know what you're supposed to do in a match like that would make it any good anyway, but I also don't know how I'm supposed to care about a match that doesn't really play to its stipulation.
Yeah, I mean, the match didn't really play to its stipulation, and the stipulation ended up kind of coming of nothing. Except, well, I'll get to the ending later on, but just a couple of things here. Number one, this ref is like pulling Ambrose off at the count of 1, like before he even starts counting, whenever they're in the corner and stuff, and I'm like, the rules, people. He has till 5. Until you count till 5, he's not breaking the rules. You shouldn't be trying to drag him off. Honestly, you should never be trying to drag him off, because if you get till 5, you disqualify him. And then there's just some dumb face stuff here that was silly. Like, WWE seems to be like obsessed with this idea that their faces are dumb. Like, for example, Dean Ambrose, in a match where if he gets disqualified, he will lose his title, grabs a chair, doesn't hit Miz with it, but Miz ends up getting it and throws it at him when the ref's not looking. And Ambrose is super hot about this. Like, he's angry that he has been hit with this chair that he brought into the match by grabbing the chair. Face stupidity. And then on a psychological level, like just during the match, there was a bit where Miz worked on Ambrose's leg with a figure 4. Ambrose gets up and he's selling this one leg, you know, real good, like good work. But then he goes to the top rope, screws that up, then tries a power bomb, like moves that are not really Ambrose moves, with one leg that are not going to work with one leg. So you're again being dumb.
Yes.
And Ambrose wasn't the only one, because Miz, of course, had one of the famous spots of, I'm right next to the ropes, and my hand is way in the air, and I'm moaning, and I'm in such pain, I'm going to tap, oh wait, there's a rope here.
Yeah, it was, like I said on a previous episode, I'm real tired of the extended, I'm well within reach of the ropes, and I'm going to hold my hand up in the air like I got to go to the bathroom when I'm in grade 5. And eventually, I don't know, maybe is it their way of trying to, I'm so exhausted with pain, I'm passing out and falling forward and accidentally touching the rope? Is that what it is supposed to be?
I don't know what it's supposed to be. If you're going to do it, at least make it so you have to frickin' lunge for the thing.
Yeah.
Like, the spot can work if you're far enough away from the rope to make it work. Miz eventually tells Maurice to slap him. The referee does not disqualify Ambrose, but rather ejects Maurice. This spot, honestly, I would have done this spot as the way to end the match, but then have, like, you gotta sell Maurice having a reason to slap Miz. So I would have actually, had, the deal was Miz almost hit her off the apron. I would have had him hit her off the apron, get her angry, slap Miz, and then, like, kiss Ambrose or something, and then boom, you have a brilliantly, like, believable DQ win. And that would have worked. Instead, we ended up with Miz throwing Ambrose into the ref, and then the ref is walking around the ring, arguing with Ambrose, taking his sweet fucking time to walk over to, I'm assuming, the timekeeper to announce the DQ, which they don't do, because normally he just makes a hand gesture and the bell gets rung and the DQ is announced. And this allows Miz to hit a skull-crushing finale for the 3. So Miz gets a win that's not a DQ, I guess, but it's a fuck finish and just a really poorly done match all around. There was some, like, smooth actual wrestling in it, which was better than I expected, but the storyline of this match was garbage.
Yeah, it was not good. This was 20 minutes I could have done without. And you pointed out that the skull-crushing finale, the name of your finishing move is way too goddamn long. If you're going to go that long, you might as well make it part of a novel that somebody has to read every time you go for a finish.
Or it should be like a really cool, awesome move, and it's not, which I think is where you're going next.
Yeah, exactly. I hadn't put 2 and 2 together that his move was actually the stroke, which is Jeff Jarrett's finisher.
Yeah, it's going. It's basically a slightly modified stroke.
Yeah, and he didn't get over either, so you might not want to follow in them footsteps, sir.
Yeah, so that's not good. Then we had a Bailey backstage segment, which, I mean, the Dreamer, Blackman, Sandman shoutouts were kind of cool, but
if they would have had any impact on the match whatsoever, it would have been cool.
Or at least give me, like, a training montage or something of her, like, hitting not even a person. Like, she could just be hitting, like, a punching bag with a kendo stick with Blackman or Dreamer just going, no. They're like this. And that would have been better. I would have laughed my ass off for that. Also, Sandman would work, but Sandman's too drunk to rely on this for stuff. So, Dreamer or Blackman are the answer. But, I don't know, didn't do much for me. She talked about how Wonder Woman inspires her, and so, again, we have a face who's inspired by a fictional character, which, I mean, is cool, but I don't know. The burial of Bailey has been freaking impressive. And
R.I.P. Well, I mean,
we're going to get more on that later.
Tomorrow, when they release Bailey and they release Austin Aries, spoilers. Because they have nothing left that they could possibly do with those characters now.
I mean, you could find something. I just don't think it'll be any good. That's the problem. Like, they've proven they don't know what to do with it.
What they're doing now is fucking terrible. So how could it get any worse?
Exactly. Well, you say this, but we've said that before, and it did get worse.
Hold my beer.
Then we had the intergender tag match between Noam Dar and Alicia Fox versus Rich Swann and Sasha Banks. This was a perfectly fine match.
Yep,
I enjoyed it. They are, I think, killing Rich Swann's kind of rolling leg lariat to the back of your head thing. Because they've used it in 3 straight matches and had Dar kind of get up from it and had nothing, like nothing's happened. And it's like, I've always said this. I don't like when someone hits, we had this in Lucha Underground earlier today where when someone hit a Styles Clash and it got kicked out of. I don't like it when you do really complex maneuvers for no real benefit. Like, it's one thing to do a DDT that always gets kicked out of or whatever, because they're relatively simple to do. Or a German suplex, or a super kick even. But things like Styles Clash, or really acrobatic moves like a rolling leg drop to the back of the head, at some point they need to do something. Not necessarily end the match, but they need to play a role into where the match is going. And Rich Swann has hit Noam Dar with this 3 times and had it do less and less each time. So that's, I don't know, it's a gripe. I just wish that move had more impact, I guess is what I'm getting at. There was a top rope double bleeds from Sasha Banks to Noam Dar that it was a little contrived, but I get why they were doing it for safety's measures, and it was a good spot and led more or less to the end of the race where Rich Swann end of the match where Rich Swann pulls Noam Dar back in, hits the Phoenix Splash, and gets the pin. So right team won. Pretty good match. Nothing amazing, but best thing on the pay-per-view up until this point.
Yep.
Then we had the Drifter do a guitar solo song. He disses the city of Baltimore, talks about the Fatal 5-Way. I enjoy it, but it seemed kind of like utterly eating time on a pay-per-view, which I'm not really behind.
This is kind of furthering the whole the Drifter has nothing to do. And to be honest, as soon as the segment was over, I totally forgot that he was even ever there until the pay-per-view ended and we're getting ready to record this. And I was like, I don't, I'm running through the matches in my head. I'm going this match, that match, the other match. Okay, cool. Wait, what match was Elias Sampson in? He was there, wasn't he? And then it finally occurred to me that that's how bad this pay-per-view was, is that I totally tried to convince myself that there were matches involved that didn't happen. Like, I really want there to be another match that I could point to that was really good.
Yeah, I would. If you're gonna do this, have him have a match. Like, make it. It can be impromptu or something. I mean, God knows you love doing impromptu matches on Raw and SmackDown, so why not do one on the pay-per-view? And get this going, because it just ate time for no reason. Then we had the kendo stick on a pole match between Alexa Bliss and Bayley, and this was terrible. I'll let you take first crack at this one. Go.
I would like to quote the warrior poet Braun Strowman and say, "This was garbage." So they buried Bayley since they've called her up to Maine. They gave her a fluke win over Charlotte that was really portrayed as a fluke win. And then did she retain at WrestleMania?
I think she retained. I can't remember. She retained at WrestleMania. I'll look it up.
I remember it was a multiple person match, and she did retain. So that was cool. Although she should have won the title at WrestleMania, so they've already buried her there because her title win didn't really mean anything. And then since then, they stripped her of the title immediately, gave it to somebody who turns out is a fantastic heel, but no one really gave a shit about then. And we only care about them. We only care about Alexa Bliss in as much as she's really good on the mic and she's stupendously hot
and very passable in the ring.
She's very, very, very acceptable in the ring. I hesitate to say good yet because I think she's got a long way to go. But there's no real issues with her in the ring. And then they've just buried her. They've buried Bayley completely since then. She can't get a win. They buried her and embarrassed her in her hometown. They've buried her on every TV segment. And now they've buried her again. She was the one to get the pole or the kendo stick off the pole. The kendo stick being 2.5 feet in the air.
Bad thing is they still had to do an Alexa Bliss I can't reach it spot.
Neither of them could reach it because Bayley was still standing on the bottom rope.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's stand on the bottom rope, can't reach it. Next rope, can't reach it. Climb to the top, you idiots.
Yeah. So
should be able to figure this out just by kind of like eyeballing it.
Yeah, so after Bailey gets the very instant Bailey gets the pole off the pole off the pole, the stick off the pole, there's this schmozzle where they both fall out of the ring and the kendo stick falls in the ring. And then there's some more schmozzle, and eventually Bailey gets the stick back, and as soon as she I think there was about a 3.5 minute gap between her, looking at the stick and then very slowly winding up to hit Alexa Bliss, and she got speared. And then Alexa Bliss just beat the shit out of her for the next, 2 minutes, and then that's the end of the match.
Yeah, hits a DDT.
It's the dumbest, it's the worst booking you can have. Whoever's in charge of this should just be fired. The road agent, the writers, everybody, just fire them, because it doesn't matter now if Bailey ever gets the title again. It doesn't matter if she ever beats Alexa Bliss. People will just kind of be going like, yay, okay, finally, can we move on to the next feud, because this one's really old and really poorly done. And yeah, there wasn't even any heat when Bliss got the pin. There was zero heat when she was slamming.
There was no
this kendo
heat
stick across. Yeah, she was slamming the kendo stick across Bailey's back, and nobody cared. There was just kind of like, I heard some random yay boo. Like, I think I heard the same person go yay and boo, just yay boo. I think maybe people were throwing the beach ball around. I have no proof of this. This was just bad. Every single part of this was bad. Poorly done, not thought out at all, just bad.
There is literally no redeeming quality to this match or this feud. It was bad. It gets Bliss over as a heel, but I think that could have been done without burying Bailey.
So I would argue that she is less over as a heel now than she was 3 weeks ago. After the This Is Your Life segment, which was pretty much career suicide whoever was in charge at that point should just be fired. And everything that person was trying to book gets reversed around to the opposite of what it was, and then you'd have a good spot. It's like there's no part of this that's worked at all.
Pretty much. This was the low point of the card. It starts to get a little better after this. We go on to the Hardys versus Sheamus and Cesaro in a cage match. Okay, my problem with the cage match, this isn't this match or whatever. This is the cage match problem. This idea that you're climbing out of the cage. Why? The cage is supposed to be for a heated personal feud. Why do you want to win by running away? Should the cage not be there to provide a just kind of more grimy element? You can use the cage as a weapon. There's no run-in possibilities. There is. We've seen run-ins in a cage match, but in theory, there are no run-ins in a cage match. You can do some things here. It's just like there's these stupid moments where like Cesaro hops onto the top of the cage and Matt Hardy's pulling him back in. When it's like, just let him go. He can't win the match by escaping. Sheamus has got to get out too. Go help your brother pull Sheamus' ass back in and beat the crap out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another spot where like Sheamus and Cesaro are trying to leave the cage and Matt Hardy's like just grabbing onto one of their legs to stop them. Like he's like almost limp, like he's semi-unconscious, and he's holding them in the cage, and it's like, okay, you two are both big dudes. You can totally just drag Matt Hardy's ass out of the ring.
Yeah.
Jeff eventually did escape the cage, but then case in point, it backfired because Matt got double teamed for like a really long time, where he got hit with a doubles razor's edge, an assisted air raid crash off the top, not the top of the cage, but off the top of the top rope. And then Jeff just had to come back in and hit a whisper in the wind from the top of the cage. The psychology of this match was just wrong. Anyways, Jeff's back in the ring because of the whisper in the wind. Sheamus and Cesaro escaped. Matt is dragging Jeff out of the cage because he's like unconscious. But the race is really dumb because you get a kind of a bit of a side-by-side shot where like the Hardys are at the same level, but like if Sheamus and Cesaro, who are halfway down the cage, just dropped, a safe distance that we've seen Jeff Hardy already drop and be fine, they would have won the race easily. So these four guys know how to make a match work. They do. But this match stunk largely just because the cage match stipulations, particularly for a tag match, are really bad right now. That's
I prefer if you're going to do a cage match at this point, I prefer Hell in a Cell. It's just, pretty clear cut. You pinfall or submission, baby. That's it.
Yeah. And the fact that Sheamus and Cesaro are your new tag team champions, despite having lost every match to the Hardys up until this point.
Mm-hmm. Every singles match and every tag team match.
Yep. It's not really any reason to take this belt seriously when that kind of stuff happens. We've been saying it in a number of our reviews for like the last 3 weeks, have we not? Like, Sheamus and Cesaro are going to win because it makes no sense. And sure enough, Sheamus and Cesaro won because it made no sense. The match,
with Bailey.
If you ignored, well, Bailey would have won using this logic, actually.
Well, exactly. There's no reason. The face had been chasing for 2 months now, and it's a kendo stick match. And the big payoff is you get to watch the face beat the shit out of the heel. Like, you literally beat the shit out of the heel with a stick. That's the biggest face pop you're gonna get.
It's actually been only about 1 month on the chase.
It doesn't make any sense not to do it that way, so they didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
The same thing with this match. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to believe in any way, shape, or form that Sheamus and Cesaro should win this match, so they do.
It's like, congratulations, you won because of a frankly shitty gimmick of the cage match. All right, Hardys get their rematch and win the titles again, because you still haven't proven you can't beat the Hardys in a wrestling match.
Yeah. And speaking of dumbass fucking booking, Neville versus Austin Aries.
This match was pretty good. I'm just gonna basically say that the submission match gimmick does not work if apparently countouts, DQs, and rope breaks are a thing. Because if rope breaks are a thing, then why can't I just win by DQ? If I can get counted out, why don't I just get counted out? So what was the purpose? Basically what we had here was a standard match with no pinfalls.
Yep. I was under the impression that submission matches were no DQ because it really doesn't matter. And I was also under the impression that submission matches were also kind of a false count anywhere because, again, why would it matter? Submission.
I can kind of get not having the falls count anywhere at part, but like something of that, the falls count anywhere, the no DQ, no count out, something like some of that has to be in there for this match to actually feel, number one, extreme. This is the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Which of these matches was extreme exactly? I don't know.
This is supposed to be like the annual ECW payoff. Like,
we had a cage match, which was okay. And we had a kendo stick, but it was a terrible kendo stick match. Terrible. There was nothing extreme about Ambrose and Miz. There was nothing extreme about Fox, Dar, Swan, and Banks. There was nothing inherently extreme about the Fatal 5-Way, really. I mean, it got a little bit.
I did enjoy the fact that they did use weapons. That was good. Touching back on the Ambrose-Miz thing, we were both speculating and talking about how this is Extreme Rules. So it would be a great gimmick to do this match and then have Ambrose get, quote, disqualified, and then say Kurt Angle comes out and goes, well, yeah, I mean, the match does have that stipulation, but this is Extreme Rules, so there's no DQ. So, fuck you.
That would have been phenomenal. It would have made up for a lot of this card. Like, seriously, I would have marked out hard. Anyways, okay, we'll get to the match at hand. Neville versus Aries. This was a good match. If you ignore the stupidness of it, like the two guys went out there and they did pretty well. The Neville focused on the leg of Aries, which he had to because Aries has got that injured leg supposedly. But I will say that once again we have dumb face-itis here, And what I mean by that is Austin Aries jumps off the top rope to the outside doing one of his axe handle thing and hurts himself because he lands on his feet and he twists his knee kind of awkwardly and hurts himself. You have an injured leg. Why would you do that move? And I've griped about this before. Like, Austin Aries is the dumbest face alive. And this is from an Austin Aries fan. And I don't, and this is not his fault. This is just the booking of it is he's got this injured leg, but he'll do, and I had this with Ambrose and Miz earlier on, he'll do moves that are just going to injure that leg further. What is the point? Why? Especially in a submission match where you're looking for a tap out here, like punishing him on the outside really wasn't going to do anything. The other things I have to say is just a lot of stuff about the gimmick, basically. We do get a really good ending sequence. Aries hits a beautiful powerbomb, locks on the last chancery in the ring. Neville escapes to the outside, but Aries is still with him, still got the headlock. Gets the last chancery on him again, makes him tap on the outside, which again, should have been the end of the match, but whatever. And then Aries goes for a suicide dive, misses, crashes and burns hard, gets dragged back in the ring. We get a red arrow, and then Rings of Saturn for the submission win for Neville, which means that you have beaten... There's one other thing I'm going to touch on after this, but I'm going to let you have your say first. You've once again beaten Aries, and he's failed to capture the title 3 times. There's a point where chasing is... It's not chasing, it's failing.
Yep. And that's what this whole pay-per-view has been about, the shittiest possible booking. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, if Aries gets one more shot at the title, people don't want to watch it. People will not want to see it. People will not care. And if he wins, which he will have to at that point because you don't have a choice, no one's going to care. No one. It's totally hollow victory. It'd be like the guy who finishes second place to Tiger Woods for 3 years running, and then Tiger Woods has a day off and the guy finally wins a tournament. Nobody's going to care. The match itself was pretty darn good. Wasn't the greatest of all. You'd probably get a solid 2.5 stars from Meltzer on this one. But yeah, there was a bunch of just... I'm watching the thing going, I thought that the submission match was supposed to have this rule or that rule, or maybe these weren't supposed to be rules. I don't understand what's going on quite. And the end was really good. You had a bunch of really good moves and combos put together. The red arrow into the Rings of Saturn was pretty much flawless. Everything was going real well in the last 2 minutes of the match. And they should probably just release Bayley and Austin Aries because their characters are done. There's nothing else you can do. I mean, you could turn Aries into a job guy, I guess, and get the next guy over to face Neville, maybe.
You could recover both with like some real long-term booking, but we know WWE doesn't do that.
No. I would have to assume now that Austin Aries, I mean, there's zero reason to put him in the title picture anymore, so it has to be TJP that's stepping in. The problem is that now you have the best heel in the company against the second best heel in the company. Where the fuck are you going to go from there?
I'd say third best heel. I'd put Gulak between the two of them.
That's possible. I could see that argument. I would disagree, but I could see... I definitely put him in the top 3, but I put him at number 3. Just because he hasn't had a long enough storyline quite yet. Vince is not going to do heel, so you're going to have to turn one of them face, and neither one of these guys needs to be face because they're both excellent heels.
And now to be honest, they were both faces like not that long ago.
Exactly. So I don't know. Again, you've booked yourself into a fucking corner again. And you've made a dumb decision. You could have had TJP versus Austin Aries for a while because you just could do that. Or I guess you could make this mistake, and now you've got to put heel versus heel, or turn one of your best heels face for no reason. I just don't know why they made any of these decisions on this pay-per-view tonight. Not a clue.
Want to go back to the build-up of this match real quick. A big thing was Austin Aries constantly saying that he's, twice devil escaped by the skin of his teeth. That wasn't going to happen this time. Submission match. The implication was that the submission match would fix that he couldn't escape the ways he did priorly. They did the exact same spot where Neville grabs the referee and the referee's going to go disqualify him. Aries like, no, please don't disqualify him. Like, way to invalidate this gimmick again. Like, theoretically, Neville could have escaped the exact same way that he did last time with the belt.
Ring the bell, start the match, hoof the ref right in the nuts. You lose the match, but you retain your title, walk off. 8 seconds flat.
The gimmick... Here's my thought on just gimmick matches in their entirety. I like gimmick matches. I do. I think they can be used to spice up a feud. I think they can be used excellently to blow off a feud. But when you bring out the gimmick match, it's in response to something that's been happening in the feud. Whether the feud's just been so heated that we got to go to the street fight, or the heel has been weaseling his way out so many times, we have to come up with a gimmick that prevents him from doing that. This did nothing on that front.
Yep.
Absolutely nothing.
They didn't really... I didn't even know this was supposed to be a submission match until 205 Live went off the air this week.
I knew about it before that. They announced it on Raw. But it just didn't make any sense. And it's like the steel cage had the same kind of problem. The Hardys, these ladder specialists, win a match to determine their stipulation. And again, being dumb faces, we're ladder specialists. Let's have a steel cage match.
Hooray!
And I understood why they didn't want to do a ladder match, because you got Money in the Bank coming up. That's a big ladder match, double ladder match pay-per-view and everything. Then how about this? You have Sheamus beat Matt Hardy in the match to determine the stipulation. Then you've given Sheamus and Cesaro a win. Oh my God, they have a little momentum. They've actually beaten the Hardys. They're believable contenders now. And you declare that it's a steel cage match, because now it's Sheamus and Cesaro picking the steel cage, not the Hardys.
Booking 101.
Kind of. Okay, we got the Fatal 5-Way, and I went first on the last one, so you go first on this one. Take us through.
I don't want to.
You don't want to, I'll do it.
Right. Fine, I'll do it. Oh, God. Jeez. I'm working on my heel persona. That's right. This is a pretty good, darn good match. The first 2/3 were really good. The last third was not as good. And the finish was pretty darn good. That's pretty much everything in a nutshell. We had, honestly, as soon as the last match ended, I left the house and went to 7-Eleven and came back, and they were still walking guys into the ring. I had time to sit down and watch Rollins, Balor, and then Reigns get into the ring. And that's a lot of time on a pay-per-view, sirs and madams. So maybe cut down all the... I fully actually expected them to interrupt the Austin Aries Neville match with the giant promo for the whole feud, like right in the middle for no reason. That's how dumb I think these people are. And this was a pretty good match. It all kind of started off as a big schmozzle. We had a bunch of one-on-ones, and like the fifth man out would get totaled briefly. So there was two one-on-ones going on, and then he would jump back in and total somebody else. So there was a bunch of one-on-ones, and then at some point, Bray Wyatt and Samoa Joe teamed up and just became my favorite new tag team of all time, because they would just roam around like giggling at each other with these evil little looks on their faces, and then they'd do something horrible and dastardly.
We're so happy to be hurting people.
This is the best. This is the most fun I've had all day. And they just they went around the whole ring, smashing stairs into people one at a time. They got Reigns twice, I think.
They did. He was the first and last.
And then after that, they started doing stuff with chairs, and then they're just like giggling and teaming up on people, and they grab like one dude. Oh, I forgot about the Finn Balor stomp everybody spot. That was good. I
That was
like
good.
that.
Hmm.
And yeah, Joe and Wyatt really did an excellent job, and I would love to see these guys as some sort of a team or a faction of some sort. I don't think I want to see Samoa Joe and the Wyatt family, but I don't know of any other way you can do it.
Well, I think it
Yeah,
would be somewhat of a more equal partnership than the Wyatt family would be the way to do it.
yeah, I guess so. But I think they tried that, and look at what that happened there. But yeah, I really enjoyed that first 2/3 of the match with everybody kind of getting a little spot here and there, and then the giant heel takeover, and then eventually it became Rollins versus Reigns for an extended period of time, and it really slowed down, and it became spot and wait and do a spot and wait and do a spot and wait, and then there was a flurry of stuff and no sell, no sell, no sell, no sell, and then eventually it ended, and it was good. It was good that it ended.
My main gripe with the match is that a 5-way is just probably more guys than I would ever do a match with. I'd probably cut it at a fatal 4-way because there were parts of this match where like two of the guys, at times Reigns and Balor, mostly Reigns and Balor to be honest, were like just out of action for so long that you kind of forgot they were even there a little bit. So just too many cooks in the kitchen a little bit there. If you cut one guy out of this match, say Roman Reigns, this is probably a better match. But I liked it. I enjoyed probably even more than Byron did.
Yeah, probably.
I will point out that Roman Reigns selling rib injuries while wearing a chest protector that covers his ribs is a bit silly, but okay. Joe and Bray got bigger cheers than Roman and Seth, which
Yeah.
state of your face division, I guess. Like these are supposed to be your biggest faces, and they get some bad reactions as sellers to it. I think there was a botch at one point between Joe and Roman because Roman came off the ropes with a something. I don't even know what it was, and it doesn't land, and then they kind of like just redo the spot with Roman hitting a big boot, and then afterwards they're on the outside trading these like really, really bad punches, like terrible punching spot, hockey fight style, and I'm pretty sure that was them talking about, okay, what did we fuck up there exactly? We had a spear through a barricade, which was really, really cool from Roman. We had a frog splash onto a table with Bray Wyatt on it from Rollins that put him through it. I'm going to gripe about the selling here for a moment. Roman and Seth come like hobbling like they've been killed back into the ring and then immediately start doing like running spots where like they're hitting running forearms to each other and stuff. And it's like, well, so much for selling your grievously injured legs. Actually, I had thought Seth might have actually tweaked his knee, the surgically repaired one, because he was fiddling with his equipment in a way that suggested he was trying to like relieve pressure on it or something.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so the lack of selling there is not great. And you have Seth possibly with an injured knee doing a Phoenix Splash. Again, dumb faces. Why are we doing things that are going to hurt ourselves more? And we saw this on the Raw match, too, where Seth had the injured ribs. And he's like, gotta get to the top. Must do 5-star frog splash and kill my ribs. So that's kind of silly. And they also did the Roman Reigns no selling the buckle bomb again, which the first time it was actually kind of cool. Second time, it goes back to that again. There are moves that have complexity or impact that should always do something, and I am bugged when they are no-sold. Be that a buckle bomb, a Styles Clash, a rolling, flipping leg drop to the back of the head, whatever it happens to be. The final sees Finn Balor absolutely go full House of Fire. He sidesteps Roman's spear, hits a sling blade, drop kick, coup de grace, and then Joe breaks up the pin to choke Balor out. So Samoa Joe going on to face Brock Lesnar Thank you. That should be good. Although the thing kind of overshadowing this match is that almost every dirt sheet is kind of reporting that this is going to be a one-off thing. Like, this is not a feud with Lesnar. This is one match where you're going to lose to Lesnar, and that's about it. So anyone I actually wanted to win the match, ironically, became the people I didn't want to win the match. Like Balor and Joe and Wyatt.
Yeah, it would have been rather satisfying. See, and you know what? If they would have had Reigns win this match, we would have been all pissed off in the short term because it's Roman Reigns winning another match that no one cared. Yeah, it just like, whatever. But then he goes to Great Nuts on Fire, and he gets the shit kicked out of him. And then he spends the rest of the year building himself back up slowly, not a week later, you fucking retards. But slowly, over the course of the next year, he builds himself up and finally gets another shot at Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, like Vince wants, and it actually means something. Yep. But that's not how it's going to go. You're going to throw away Joe. I mean, is he just signing these people so that he can bury them on camera and then release them? Is this what's going on?
Losing to Lesnar, in fairness, is not going to be a burial.
But what's the point?
There's no point. I'm just saying, it's not a burial. It's a misuse of talent. It's silly, but it's not burial.
I would just feel a lot better if there was a goddamn point or a goddamn booking decision that somebody could make. This is just garbage.
Oh, we pretty much established it. Like, I didn't like a single booking decision. I almost think that in every match, the wrong person went over, except for Rich Swann and Sasha Banks winning. That is what I would have done.
Yep.
And this is not me being like, oh, you're not pushing my favorites. Like, no, I love Neville. I love Joe. I'm a big fan of Sheamus and Cesaro. But within the booking of those specific programs, it didn't make a lot of sense for any of those people to go over. Joe, to a degree, it makes sense to go over, but only if you're going to go do a proper feud. If you're going to do a one-off match with Lesnar and you're just buying time for Braun Strowman to return, give us a match we've already seen. Give us Reigns versus Lesnar or Rollins versus Lesnar. We've seen them. We don't need to see a program between that combination of people again. Joe, Balor, our new... Has Bray Wyatt faced Lesnar?
I think so, and I think it was a total burial.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have put... I would have put Rollins over here. I would have put Reigns over, but I'm accepting the fact that Vince McMahon's not going to have Reigns lose to Lesnar. So, making peace with that fact, I would have had Rollins go in there, take the loss to Lesnar. Because, one, technically he does have a win in a three-way with Lesnar that allowed him to win the title, so he's not completely buried off of losing to Lesnar once. He's actually kind of like almost even with the Beast. That's pretty impressive, actually. And you have him go in there and lose. He can survive that, and you haven't ruined something new. You haven't ruined something that you're saving for the right occasion. And I would have thought Lesnar versus Joe, because Joe does have Triple H in his corner, would have been something they would have saved to make a big deal. Now, maybe the rumors are untrue, and this actually ends up being a program, in which case I'm going to be really happy. But there's nothing that saves like the earlier matches. Like Aries, completely dead as a title contender, 3 chances, 3 failures. The Hardys are by no means dead, but the Sheamus and Cesaro are like dead duck champions, where it's like, okay, so you fluked your way to these titles. And Bayley is so buried at this point. And then the Ambrose Miz thing is like, all right, Miz has got the Intercontinental title again, which I don't want to see. I don't mean like in a heel sense of I want to see him lose. No, I've seen that. I've already gotten that. I don't want to see him with the title again. At least not for a long time. And the way they did it was just absolutely devoid of any remote logic. It was like Triple H's youngest kid booked that match and is a big fan of Miz for some reason.
Yup.
So, pretty like in-ring quality, not necessarily terrible. This is not on the wrestlers. This is on the booking. It's bad. It is terrible.
I know that Vince is ultimately the booker, but is there anybody else on that committee that should have probably not been employed, or like what's the deal?
The problem with most of the bookers right now, the writers, is that since they've been working under Vince McMahon the entire time, I don't know what they can do. It's kind of the announcer problem where it's like, I don't know if you are any good at your job, but I it just nothing becomes clear until Vince is gone. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The buck does stop at the top. Which is the one kind of nice thing about WWE is that you can blame the CEO, whereas with a lot of other companies, the CEO be out there shifting blame, but Vince kind of takes it, although he fires other people and not himself. So, yeah,
Yep.
not
At some point,
not perfect.
At some point, there has to be some sort of like they're a publicly traded company, and their ratings are dying really quick. At some point, somebody has to, from a business standpoint, remove Vince. That's just how that has to happen.
And to all the people who defend the drop in ratings, I don't think they understand how ratings work. Ratings are based on how many people could be watching your show, i.e., cable cutting has nothing to do with it. Nothing. Cord cutting does not affect the ratings of Raw. Beyond, like it does, but it's like very minuscule. Like okay, like simple math. 42 people out of 100 watch Raw. Massive rating. One of those 42 people cuts the cable. Okay, now it's 41 out of 99, so it's like slightly smaller. But it's not like the person who cut the cord is still part of the denominator. They cease to be part of the denominator and the numerator. It's not a massive change. And the ratings for other shows are not falling nearly as much as Raw and SmackDown's ratings are. So people are telling you that your product is not that great. You're making a lot of money because, frankly, we've talked about this before, but you've opened up a number of different sources of revenue. You've made it easier to buy stuff from you. It's also easier just in the modern world, like since, say, 2005, for kids to be like, Mommy, Daddy, I want a John Cena shirt. And since the internet is there and the acceptance of a credit card and the ease of shipping and the lack of price of shipping, the parents give in and order the damn shirt. Something that would not have happened back in the day. Also, wrestling is a lot more friendly to parents now. Like, if I'd ever asked my parents for something from WWF in the day, the answer would have been no. Flat out. So, yeah, you're making more money, but less people are watching your shit. A lot of hardcore fans are not happy with your shit and are not paying as much money as they would. So, you're not... while you are making a lot of money, you could be making even more money. And as a corporation in America, that's your goal. So what the hell is wrong with you?
He's old.
It's frustrating. It really is, because the talent on the roster is the best it's ever been, easily. In ring quality, it's just the writing is there, not there. The booking is not there. Yeah, the storylines are bad. The who's winning the matches is bad. The booking is bad. The booking of the matches is bad. It's such a waste. It really is such a waste. You're signing all of this interesting new talent and then making them work a generic style. And again, I've said this a number of times. I don't have a problem with someone having to change. Like when Pac came in, I'm like, he's got to change. He does too much flying stuff. It's a little too dangerous. Someone's going to get hurt, so on. It's got to be slowed down a little bit and simplified a little bit. But you can do that while maintaining some of what made Pac great. And there are other people like TJP who's come in and like not been allowed to do like any of his shit. And he was a perfectly safe worker. Was nothing bizarre about him. That's all I got for this one. You got anything else to add?
No, I think I said everything there is to say.
All right, so we're calling it a night after this pay-per-view. We'll be back with some Lucha Underground, plus we got Raw coming up, SmackDown, etc. You know, the week of WWE stuff, which we'll probably be very anti on. And then, if you want to hear us be like happy about wrestling, tune into Lucha Underground, and we may also kick off some New Japan stuff in the near future. So that will make us happier. So that's all for now. Have a good night. And, give us a shout in the comments. And negative, positive. We're always happy to have feedback. Won't necessarily take it, but we're always happy to have it.